Did you fall in love with somebody who really didn't choose you and now you're feeling exhausted and not knowing where to turn, feeling like you put so much time and energy into this relationship only to feel empty and you've wasted a lot of time? If this resonates, this is your video. My name's Deborah. I'm a transformational healer and intuitive coach. And I work a lot with people who have been in and out of these type of relationships. I too have gone through this. And I want to talk about the subconscious pattern that's really running the show, talk about my story, and also talk about how to get out of it. I want you to know that by the end of this video, you may feel a lot of that suffering lifted and have a different perspective on the healing that can take place and to actually get to a point where you are chosen. I'll explain that later. So, I want to go into the subconscious pattern. If you're feeling like, what's wrong with me? What did I do? I wish I could have said this. I shouldn't have said that. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. I'm not good enough. This, believe it or not, is an opportunity. And I know it doesn't feel like it, but it's an opportunity for you to heal, to release those limiting beliefs that maybe have already been in there for a while, either from this relationship and or other situations, other experiences that you've had in life. In my case, I fell in love with someone who did not choose me. It was not a healthy relationship. It was on again, off again. It was a trauma bond. And it felt so familiar. It felt like home. He felt like the love of my life. And it was actually just a replay of what I experienced as a child and even some adulthood. Not to say that all my relationships were bad, they weren't, but this person felt like the love of my life and it felt like home. And so it was my biggest breakdown breakthrough. It actually was the catalyst to really truly heal and to come back to myself, to choose me, and to be with the divine. So, this situation that you're in right now could actually be your biggest breakthrough. So, if you feel like you are entertaining these thoughts, you're on the floor, curled up in a ball in a pool of tears, I want you to know that you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You just were in a dynamic with someone that it triggered everything that you need to be free from. And this is a very deep video. So I want to talk about also in my story how I actually made myself physically ill. And it wasn't just that relationship. That was the last straw. That relationship was the tipping point of me having to really go within and do a lot of healing work. I've been on a spiritual journey since my mid 20s. I've had some amazing divine experiences. I have a guru, I have a spiritual teacher. I've been blessed to be with the most amazing healers that have trained me. And this is my life's purpose, my calling. What I do in this work is I help others to heal as well. And I have a lot of compassion and understanding because I've been through it myself. So, what happened was, even if you're on a spiritual journey, you go through experiences and things that you need to work on. And so for me, I created cancer. And it was all the emotional baggage that I had not faced. And so I had to go through the dark night of the soul. And the ending of this relationship was the tipping point for me to go into the pain. And the more that I did this, and believe me, I was suicidal. Now, I didn't have the guts to follow through, but I was suicidal. And when people get out of trauma bonds like this, I get it because it can feel like life or death. And if you haven't gone through this, then this video is not for you because it's usually stems from absolute terror of being alone and abandoned because maybe that's what you experienced as a child or even adulthood. So I experienced the cancer and I've been able to heal myself through energy work and also through the Western medicine, alternative and Western. But that's for another video. But I just want you to know that dis-ease comes from a lot of emotional baggage. Now, Not every disease does. You could be sitting in front of a 5G tower or something where you're getting lots of radiation, or outer circumstances can cause that. But I just want to say, as an energy healer, I know that a lot of the healing can take place by releasing those limited self beliefs and concepts. I want to share with you what happens when you're in this trauma bond, and also how to get out of it when you feel like you're not chosen. And maybe you can really relate to this. When I share with someone that I'm doing a one on one session or in group, and I say, now it's time for you to choose yourself, they look at me sometimes with absolute terror in their eyes. And it's because it's the fear of being alone. And so they associate choosing themselves with being alone. I know I went through that as well. And it brought up all of my limiting beliefs. What if I'm going to be alone the rest of my life? What if I'll never find love again? All of that. So if this happened to you, this is normal. Just feel like, wow, to choose myself, especially if you're a mother and you have been raising children and you are helping, you're there for everybody else, but now all of a sudden you have to take that energy and put it on you. It can also be a distraction to not look at ourselves, right? So, this is an opportunity to start to take your power back from focusing on that person that didn't choose you and putting it back on you. But again, it can be a little frightening in the beginning. And I also want to share with you that and a lot of people that I talk to about this, they talk about what the person that they were involved with is like. And they usually say, oh, they're dismissive avoidant, or they're a narcissist, or all these different terminologies, right? And I'm going to be a little bit in your face about this, because it was something I discovered in my healing journey, is that we point the finger at them and say, oh, they're that, I'm the anxious attachment. So we're still in a way playing victim, because we're saying, well, they're the ones that are avoiding everything. They don't do the work. But do we actually do the work? When we enter into a dynamic with someone like this, we become very controlling and manipulating just as much as they do. In my case, my person was breadcrumbing, had other women. I was supply. I was one of supply. Later on, realized that. And I was not treated as valuable, or I was not respected. There were so many different things that happened in this dynamic. And I would react, I would withdraw, I would manipulate to try to get that person to choose me. I would do anything to get that person to choose me, because I was attached to, this is my person. And I had these limiting beliefs that I would never find anybody else. I would never have that kind of chemistry that I had felt with this person. I had never felt with anybody else. So I had all these limiting beliefs that were keeping me hostage to being attached to this person and trying to get them to love me. So I became just as controlling and manipulating as them, and I was avoiding really having to look at myself. Actually, holding on to that relationship kept me from looking at myself and doing the inner work. That was a big eye opener. And if this is something that you are listening to, you may see if that applies to you. So when it ended, that's when I was on the ground, and it felt like life or death. And I couldn't understand, why is it that I feel so suicidal about this? Wanting the pain to go away, feeling this such intense suffering of abandonment. And it took about a year before I could actually really see where it was coming from and why I was feeling this way. And that is because I had such a death grip on this relationship. Because when you look at the reality, which I'll share in a minute, it's almost laughable, because you're like, why would I feel this way towards someone who clearly is not choosing me, clearly has some problems, clearly is, there's so many things that you just go, why would I do that? And so finally, when I saw it, I saw that I was trying to have a healthy relationship with someone who wasn't healthy, number one. And number two, because I was craving that emotional connection with another human being as a man, because I have that with other people in my life and it's very healthy. But I had problems with men. And that could be for a whole nother video, but I was just wanting it so bad that, and I was having glimpses of it with this person. So I held on. I was waiting for the next hit. And so once I saw that death grip, I was able to let go and have so much love and compassion for myself because I was like, "Oh, you just wanted love. It's okay. It's totally okay. You're human. It's the human condition." Even though I had had experiences with the divine that were amazing and overwhelming when I was in my 20s, because I was like, whoa, this is a little too much. Because it's so, if you're on a spiritual path, especially when you're young, you still have all your desires and you're still going to go after them. So even if you're older, same thing. It's the human condition, it's the struggle between the human and the divine. But once you see it, for me, I just had compassion and I let go. I felt, and this is where my capacity for understanding and compassion is much greater for myself and for others, especially in this work that I do. So, the other thing that happens when you're involved in a relationship like this is you suddenly, because you're trying so hard to get this person to meet you in what you're giving to them and to balance it out. And what happens is you start working on yourself, and it's a disguise. In my case, it was a disguise. I was like, well, I'm working on myself and I'm trying to understand him, and I'm being better, I'm improving, I'm getting better, I'm evolving, I'm growing, and that will get him to be the person for me and all this stuff. So that can also be a deterrent. It can be a way to avoid the realities. And this one's really a fun one that I did as well. At one point, when I started to see that he was not being truthful with me, there was a situation that came up. And this is when I started becoming a private investigator. And I was like, oh, wow, maybe I missed my calling. Maybe that's what I should have done, because I became really good at it. And I had once that particular situation where I sat in front of my computer because I could feel there was a disturbance in the force. I was like, what he's saying is not true, and I can feel it. And so I was asking the divine to help me find out. And the way it all came about was crazy. It was almost effortless how it was being presented, but it was almost impossible in the 3D of what I found. So I was like, wow. And so you don't want to live like that as a private investigator if that's not your calling. And you're having to check up on comparing whether what they're saying is true or not. Now that I look back at that, I just go, oh my God, why would I stay with somebody that lied to me? Right? But you have rose colored glasses on and you think, oh my God, they're my person. I'm going to make this work. So then you get so overwhelmed and you feel like, oh, and then social media, you become obsessed. You're checking social media, you're seeing if you see anything. It is everybody. I know people young and old that go through this, and it is not a fun place to be. And it's such an addiction in this society to be on social media and then to start using it for being a private investigator of your partner. Come on. But again, it's human, and don't beat yourself up over it. So finally, you get to this point where you're like, comparing, because I've discovered there was more than just me, other women, and I would be jealous and I'd be like, what does he see in them? And I don't understand, and blah. Talk about low self-worth. And you don't even see it when you're in it. You don't realize that you're having low self-worth. Everybody else around you probably does. I know my friends did, and family, but you're just so enmeshed in it that you just don't see it. So finally you start to wake up and you go, oh my God, you don't trust yourself, you're doubting you're feeling pretty low, and you're questioning everything, and you start to spiral, and then everything that you were pushing down to try to make it work, you explode. So my teacher always says you either express, suppress, or release. Release is the best way. But that's why if you have been in a relationship like this, or you're even still in one, and all of a sudden everything's okay, and then that person does something, and then you explode, and then you say things that you wish you wouldn't have said, that's the expression. So you suppress it or express it, but instead, why not release it? And that will be the next part of this video. So, what happens when you get to this point is you hit a bottom. And how do you get out of it? How do you get out of a relationship like this? Usually they discard you or you walk away. Either way, it's very painful. And then you're left with what you have to look at. So what you are doing is you're starting to wake up to reality. And you're starting to go from being in the fantasy of trying to make this work to what the reality is, who this person is, and it's quite heartbreaking. So I want you to know that the way out of this, and I'm going to share with you the steps that I have taken myself and with my clients. It's called the release, rewrite, receive. 3 steps. Stems from Lester Levinson, who started the Sedona method, and I have a teacher. Her name is Laura Lucille, and she spent many years with Lester Levinson. And she teaches releasing in a little different way than the Sedona method. And I've incorporated it into my energy healing, which is releasing, the way I do the release work. So, the first and foremost, when someone has gotten out of a relationship like this, or they're in it and they want to heal, is set your intention. What's your intention? And this is where people really have a hard time sometimes because they don't know what they want. Most people do, but sometimes they don't know what they want. So, what is it that you want? You've come out of this relationship. Usually, what people say in situations like this is, I just want a loving, healthy relationship with someone. So, set the intention. I allow myself to have the perfect relationship easily. And if you put easily, it's like trigger word because the mind's going to kick in and go, easily, it hasn't been easy before. Look what I've been through. This has been hard. All of those thoughts that come up are what you're going to write underneath the intention, which is what you're going to release, is all these limiting beliefs about yourself, about them, about relationships, about the world, about blah. You're taking responsibility and accountability. You're not being a victim and you're not trying to change them anymore. You're taking a step back and you're only taking a look at your thoughts. And when I'm in session with someone, we also do the energy work. So I help you set the intention and then I go in and I help you to see what stories are you holding on about yourself? What traumas have you been through? What is it that's there that we can clear out, alchemize, and put back in something healthy so that you can have different experiences? Because whatever we are thinking in our mind is exactly what we're experiencing out there. And that's what Lester Levinson said. So if you don't like your life, change your thoughts. It's that simple. And yet we are so married to our thoughts that we don't even question them. So when you start to release, you're taking a step back, you're going back into beingness, the divine, the beingness that you are, the consciousness, and you're becoming aware of the thoughts. And you're saying, I can hold on to these, I can let these go. And it's not easy at first, but once you start to do it, if you feel like this works for you and you're drawn to it, it can be magical. So the next step is to write a new script. And that's the fun part, is writing what you want and being detailed about it. And as you're writing what you want, you're going to still see the limiting beliefs that come up. Well, some people that they will set the intention of getting back together with that person. And this is where people go, that's not possible because that person didn't love me. They're a narcissist. They're never going to change. All of those thoughts are what you're going to release. And I see when I'm working in groups or one-on-one and people look at me like, you really think that's possible? Absolutely, because your mind is the movie projector. It's always projecting. So why not change that movie projector and see what happens in the 3D, see how it shifts. And I've seen people change. I've seen when they do this work where they release, they rewrite the script, and then they receive a different timeline, a different version of themselves. And they will see that person could absolutely come back and that person could absolutely show up differently. And I know that sounds crazy, but it can happen because your projections are different. You're not thinking that I'm not worthy anymore. You're not thinking that I'm not lovable. And once you know who you really are, the divine, you would never entertain those thoughts again. And you would never choose anyone who's going to treat you like that because you have your self-worth. You have yourself back, right? So Once you start to let go of these limiting beliefs, and sometimes in the beginning it's a little overwhelming, but once you do this, your life will change and you will become happier. You will become more relaxed. You will be in the beingness that you are. And you will find that life becomes much more enjoyable and more miraculous and magical. And so, what I want to say is what I said in the beginning is that you become chosen. And really, you become so neutral that you're not pushing, pulling, trying to control, trying to manipulate, trying to get somebody to choose you anymore. You choose you, and you let the divine choose you. You've got yourself back, and then you're okay either way because you feel so fulfilled and satisfied with you. And every human being, every soul has to go through this sooner or later. And it is when you have the support around you. By the way, I have a community that you are welcome to join. If this resonates and you want to work through this trauma and you want to get support from me and from others, you can make new friends. I have a private Facebook group. I have a lot of resources on my website. Join my community. It would be great to have you. And I fully support you in healing from this for once and for all. And I just want to share that pattern usually stems from other experiences. So, this is a gift that you actually can give yourself, and that is to let go of all these limiting beliefs about yourself and make that your priority and see how the world out there changes. So, I hope this video helped you, and I encourage you to go on the journey to heal from these limiting beliefs and to enjoy your new version of your life.